For today's project, we're going to head down to Habitat for Humanity. We're going to save this shutter from a drizzly day and see what we can do. First thing, lay out some cardboard and we're going to lay that shutter down. What we want to do is get some high grit sandpaper. Just sand all the edges, gets rid of any imperfections and all the burrs. But don't worry, we are going to paint it. We just want to get rid of any gloss and make sure it looks smooth. Next is where the hinges go. We got to get rid of those holes. We want to fill them in because once we paint this, it's going to stand out. So just use some spackle, cover all the holes, especially if there's any staples or anything of the sort, and then a light sanding will fill it in. Next step is kind of cool. I grabbed some gray primer and just started painting. Now, like I've said before, we got to make sure when we're spraying any project that we go light on it. It's always better to do 2 or 3 light coats than 1 heavy coat. Reason for this is the spray paint loves to puddle up or pool or drip, and we don't want that. We want to make it look nice every time. The color turned out perfect, so we brought it inside. And on the top, we went to the very middle, and we're going to put some hooks. These are very simple, inexpensive. All you got to do is lay them out and mark where the holes go. I love doing pre-drilling. I don't like to split the wood when I'm putting the screws in, so every time, even if it's a small drill bit, use a pilot hole. These are very simple to put in, and if you do use a pilot hole, you can use a screwdriver. Of course, I have a drill, so I'm going to use that. We're going to put one in the middle and one on each side. Again, I put this at the top, but this is your project. You can put these hooks anywhere you want. Next, I need to have a whiteboard. That way I can leave messages or notes for me or for the family. But how do we put it on? Well, I grabbed a little bit of extra epoxy glue that I had laying around, and I love it because it is strong. Just a 2-part system you mix together, and then I lay it out right underneath where the whiteboard's going to go and just put it right on top of the slats, just like that, just in a few random areas. It's very simple. All you got to do is lay it down and let it sit for about 10 minutes and it's going to be perfectly strong. Next, I grabbed this little Home Sweet Home bucket that I got, but I need to put a hook on the back side. So I grabbed the pliers, bent the hook, and a little extra of the epoxy that I had and put it right on the back. I didn't want to put any screws through the bucket, so this epoxy is so amazing that it's just going to go ahead and clamp it right there with a clothespin and hold it on. While that's drying, I want to get some twine so I can give our little shutter a little bit of a rustic look. Just go ahead and put a knot in it. I'm going to put it through a small clothespin that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. Just tie it on there, real simple. If you have any extra, just cut it off on the end, not a problem. Then I'm going to go ahead and just clip it right onto the shutters. That way it's adjustable. I can put it anywhere I want. I went with the V look on it, and I can hang things from this, like pictures or postcards, not a problem. Next, we got to hang the shutter itself. The shutter is lightweight, so it just takes a simple hook on the back. Make sure you pre-drill, and now let's hang it up. As you can see, I got the hooks on top, and I've got the whiteboard, and I found this cool little shelf. It goes right into the shutters. The great thing is it's not permanent. You can just put it anywhere. Don't forget that bucket. We'll put that there, and just look at this amazing project. I can hang my keys, leave notes, hang up any postcards or sticky notes that I need, and it's got everything I need, dog leash, hats, and my wallet. I hope this inspired you to do your own upcycle project. We're glad you joined us on Hometalk, and we can't wait to see you again next time.
Today's project is going to feature this beautiful vintage shutter. We're going to put that to the side, and I'm going to pull out an ordinary canvas drop cloth. So canvas drop cloth is great for DIY and crafting. I do recommend that you go ahead and give it a hot wash and dry so that it shrinks up. And then now it's time to measure. So I laid out my shutter and I knew exactly what size pouches I want to make. And so whatever size your shutter ends up being, just make sure you make your proper measurements and cut here. I'm using pinking shears just to kind of reduce some of the fraying. Not 100% necessary. You could use regular scissors for this step. But I'm going to get it all cut out, and I'm actually going to create 2 pouches. And then the next step after we're done cutting all this out is going to be to glue the sides together to create faux seams. Now, if you are a seamstress, you absolutely could sew this project, but I'm going to be using the Sure Bonder fabric glue sticks on a low temp glue gun. So there I'm going ahead and putting it on the sides of the pouches to glue them down. I did create a lip at the top of my pouch just for some extra strength for the fabric. I love the canvas because it's super durable, but just that added strength for, since I'm going to be hanging paperwork and mail and stuff like that. Okay, so once you've got it all glued, you're actually going to flip it inside out. All right, next, like I said, we're going to pull out our shutter. It's a big one now. You may end up choosing a smaller one for your liking, but I had this beautiful French New Orleans shutter in my vintage stash, and I couldn't wait to create something with it. So I'm going to lay out my pouches, and then I have some other vintage elements that I'm going to use on this entryway piece. I have a vintage decorative molding piece at the top and a vintage mirror that I have turned into a chalkboard. Next, I'm going to grab my drill. It has a square head bit, drill bit on it right now because I'm using some pocket hole screws, which are very nice because number one, they keep you from having to make pilot holes for your drill, for your screw to go in, but they're also decorative because they're a beautiful bronze color. So I think they'll really tie into my vintage Southern kind of theme I have going here. So the most important part about screwing a screw into fabric is to keep the fabric near where your screw is going in really nice and taut. That way your fabric doesn't try to spin up into your screw. If you don't try to do this, it will try to spin up into your screw. You will see. All right, I'm just going to get the last of these screws in here on this second pocket. Like I said, it's coming together beautifully. I'm keeping my fabric kind of pulled tight. One of my pockets is a little bit deeper than the other. I did that just because I was thinking about paperwork and things like that that might be put in there that would be a little bigger. Now, I also have these beautiful antique library kind of labels. They're vintage inspired reproduction, but I just use a little hot glue to glue them on the front of each pocket. And I'm going to be able to slip a little piece of cardstock in those to change out the labels whenever I like. So that's going to be fun. Now I'm going to use those other two pocket hole screws that I told you I had. And I'm going to place those just in the center. And I have a little bit of hanging rope on the back of that decorative molding and on the back of that chalkboard mirror. And that's just going to be what hangs on my pocket hole screw. Next, I had these little hooks lying around, and I thought, we always have some extra keys around the house, either in a bowl or in a tray somewhere, and I thought it'd be nice to have them hanging up. So I'm just going to measure out that they're properly spaced and get those nailed in as well. I did have to drill some pilot holes for these because I was not using screws, so I'm just drilling little tiny pilot holes to let the nail go in easier. Now, these took a little persuasion to get in. I had to do some gentle yet forceful tapping, but I got all three of them in and they look lovely and they are holding nicely. So our design is complete. It looks amazing. I really, really, really love all the vintage elements, the repurposing, the unexpected use of the canvas drop cloth. This would look great in any home or office. So I hope you're inspired to make one of your very own.